I will admit that I do not work in a STEM field, but I do think that addressing this issue is theoretically simple, and its theoretical simplicity almost it frustrates a person because it doesn't seem like it's that difficult to address this issue. It's just that a lot of the authorities and the professionals like to look the other way. Well, the thing is that if people are having this experience, there are likely physical abnormalities in the victims versus control subjects who haven't been experiencing these attacks. This is because to produce this phenomena in the brain, you have to use physical force to initiate the process. If you're using physical force to initiate the process, that is going to create a testable effect that will be different, that will produce differences in the victims rather than in the controls. And you know what? Some people have already begun testing for this, but it's not widespread and it's not widely acknowledged. One of the people at the forefront of this issue is Richard Lighthouse, which is an alias, but he writes a variety of different texts about this issue. And in Targeted Individuals' Technical Information, he makes use of a spectrum analyzer and voltmeter strips to demonstrate that the victims are being exposed to abnormal amounts of non-ionizing radiation. Another possibility would be utilizing Faraday cages that would block the radiation that the subjects would often be exposed to in all other circumstances. I discussed Faraday cages in Cognitive Tyranny. This is a scientific innovation by the physicist Michael Faraday. And essentially what this machine does is that it takes the radiation and pushes it to the outer edge of the material so that the radiation signal is blocked and the person doesn't experience effects from untoward, externally directed radiation. The Faraday cage is a form of electromagnetic shielding, and there are a variety of materials that can be used for electromagnetic shielding purposes. The purpose of this video isn't necessarily to go in on this detail. There are plenty of sites that you can look up that will discuss this. Copper, lead. I know that the National Security Agency even uses copper in its buildings because they want to block electromagnetic radiation. And if they're somehow involved in this attack, it would be nice if people could block this radiation. But, you know, what are the chances? The idea, though, is that this is a band-aid solution for tech-savvy people who have access to resources. But the lay person, you know, which includes myself, since, you know, I don't work in STEM, and a lot of people don't work in STEM, we're not going to have access to a lot of this equipment, or the budget, or the resources to make it worthwhile for us to go pick up spectrum analyzers and to buy Faraday cages. They're not accessible. So my solution that I think that more people should consider, and why it hasn't been done to counteract these awful human rights atrocities, is beyond me. But what should be done is having test centers around this country and the world. You know what? The reason why people are doing these attacks is because there's a minimal to nil risk of detection. There's almost no way right now to hold people accountable for harming people using electromagnetic radiation. And that is a human rights atrocity. So you know what we need to do? Test centers all over this country, all over the world. And for human rights purposes, these should be either, you know, free government subsidized centers, or because people, you know, if we want to get professionals to help out, physicists, medical doctors, engineers, and the like, we're going to need them to accept insurance. We're hoping that if this is a human rights atrocity, they're going to take Medicare and Medicaid, because your ability to pay should not determine whether you have to suffer an onslaught on your consciousness or not. We need to end these attacks, and the easiest way to do this is to make sure that perpetrators can't do this without being held accountable. Just like if you have a physical gun and you shoot someone, that you can do ballistic testing to link the bullet to the gun. People should be able to document, to test the radiation, trace it back to the source, and hold the perpetrators accountable. This is important. This is human rights we're talking about. This is the ability to think freely in your own brain without annoying, oppressive, 24/7 intrusion. Another way we need to deter this is that we have to make legislation that's explicit, that covers this issue. I just recently read a book called The Battle for Your Brain by Nita Farahani. She works in this field, and she's talking about human rights, United Nations, international protections. And that's important because we need to make it explicit that our thoughts are off limits and the mind should not be interfered with by tyrants who want to enforce their agenda and oppression on people. Unfortunately, there's very little appetite for this. So in our Congress in the United States, the last time we had anything that dealt with this issue at all was 2001. The H.R. 2977 Space Preservation Act. This act would have completely banned mind weapons, psychotronic weapons, electromagnetic directed energy weapons. All of that would have been banned. And guess what? No one voted on it. And you know what? We never had anything that discussed these issues at all, any legislation since then. So this is a huge problem that needs to be addressed right now in an age where neurotechnology is being weaponized like this. I don't know why the authorities haven't gotten into it. I mean, look, I can put two and two together. It's possible that there's some complicity there, but I can't name names. I can't accuse anyone. And I know that when all is said and done, whatever side of the political spectrum you fall under, whether you're all the way on the left or all the way on the right or anywhere in between, I think everybody would agree it's better not to oppress people like this. And we need to do more to protect the brain from these assaults, and enforceable legislative protections in this country and throughout the world will be an important measure to do that.